Helena Duarte hadn't opened the Bible in years, not since Miguel died. She'd tried therapy, prayer, silence, and antidepressants, but nothing erased the image of her 17-year-old son's crushed motorcycle on a rainy road in Sao Paulo. When Luis, her husband, got an engineering job in the US, she didn't think twice. They left everything behind. The house in Tucson, Arizona was isolated, old, quiet, strange. It had a dry backyard with buried tiles and half-broken cactuses, perfect for forgetting the past, until the day she dug up the Bible. She wasn't looking for it. She was planting lavender when her shovel hit metal. A small, sealed box. Inside it, a Bible, worn, intact, and annotated in red ink. The first verse she saw was from Ezekiel. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire unfolding itself. Next to it, a handwritten note read, "Not fire, not cloudy." They called it because they had no words. It came from the stars. She stared at the text for several minutes, her breath caught, her heartbeat in her ears. From that night on, the dreams returned. In them, Miguel stood tall, not 17 anymore. He wore a strange, seamless suit that shimmered faintly. Behind him, a massive floating craft hovered in silence. Its surface was translucent, almost breathing. He spoke only once. "Mom, I didn't die the way you think. I went back to where I started." She woke up shaking, drenched in sweat. Her arm hurt. When she rolled up her sleeve, she saw 3 small circular burn marks forming a triangle on her forearm. They stung faintly, but didn't bleed. Luis noticed them later and froze. He didn't say a word. But Helena saw it in his eyes. He recognized them. Luis Fernando had signed NDAs that would outlive him. During his early work in aerospace contracts, he'd seen old, unofficial case files. Files not meant for public eyes. In one of them, a declassified report from Roswell, 1947, there were photos. One of the scientists exposed to the craft had the same exact markings on his arm. He hadn't believed any of it. Until now. The strange events escalated. At a small spiritist group in Phoenix, led by Brazilians, they were doing a normal study session when Helena collapsed, her body tense, her eyes rolled back. No one touched her. When she came to, she had written something on a notepad. The text was not in Portuguese, nor English. One of the group members took a photo and sent it to a linguist friend. 3 days later, the answer came, Aramaic, a supposed message from Jesus to unnamed star children. The time of confusion is near. The light will descend among men when the sky vibrates. Protect the seed. The group fell silent. The coordinator, a calm woman from Recife named Julia, started praying. She'd seen similar cases before, spiritual messages about planetary missions, but never anything this specific. Never with coordinates. Yes, coordinates. The final line was a string of numbers. When they typed them into Google Earth, it pointed to a desert area near Sandia Base, New Mexico, just a few miles from an old nuclear test site. Meanwhile, Helena's dreams deepened. She began to see places that didn't exist on Earth. Cities built in perfect geometry. Floating spheres of light moving between crystalline towers. And always the same voice echoing in her head. "You have been here before. You came back by choice." She stopped talking to Luis about the dreams. He was already distant. He stayed up late, staring at old files on his encrypted laptop. Files from his time in government facilities. Files he was never supposed to keep. One night, she caught a glimpse of a document header, Project Asherah, Anthropological Starseed Human Energy Reconnection Analysis, Restricted Level 3. 2 days later, she got a call. Blocked number, distorted voice. "You found something you were never meant to dig up. That Bible is not just a book, it's a recording device. Keep it safe." Then, click. Helena's hands shook. She checked the Bible again. At the very end, in the blank page usually left untouched, was a symbol burned faintly into the paper. 3 concentric circles. Lines cutting through at perfect 45-degree angles. She didn't know what it meant. Luis did. In 1993, during a covert review of artifact photos from a Nevada excavation, a similar symbol had been found etched onto a metallic tablet recovered near a craft crash site. The report claimed it was a navigational sigil used by light-based entities. He never believed that either, until now. Everything changed the night she saw Miguel again, not in a dream, but awake. It was 3 a.m. She was in bed, awake but frozen. The room is dimly lit by moonlight, and then she felt the air thickened. Time slowed. A soft hum filled her ears, and then by the window he appeared. Not as a ghost, not as a vision, but solid, real, standing calmly, peaceful. "Mom, I can't stay long," he said, his voice echoing slightly. "They're watching. But I need you to listen. You're not just a mother. You were one of us. Before Earth, before form." She tried to move. Couldn't. Tears ran down her face. "The book you found," Miguel continued, "was left for you, a long time ago. You buried it, in another life. The symbols inside, use them. When the sky begins to burn, people will listen, but only if you speak." Then he was gone. A blink. Silence. Helena sat up, gasping for air. The next day, someone slipped an envelope under their front door. No sender, no note, just a small photograph. In it, a woman from the 1940s, holding the same Bible. Standing next to a man with a military badge, Project Blue Book era. On the back, scribbled in pencil, "They never knew what they had. She did. They silenced her." That night, Helena returned to the Spiritist group. During a collective prayer, she felt herself slipping into trance again. Her voice changed, deeper, smother, not hers. She began speaking in clear English. "The messengers you call angels were travelers. They do not serve one religion. They serve the source. What is written in the book of Ezekiel is not metaphor. It is memory. What Moses saw was not fire. It was light and engineered, but to your eyes it burned. The Son of Man came from the stars, as you did, as all do. Flesh is the costume, spirit is the origin." Her hands trembled. She collapsed again. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, Julia, the coordinator, whispered, "I've heard similar messages, but never like this. This is a warning." Louise confronted her that night. "Do you know what you're messing with?" Helena didn't flinch. "Do you?" He showed her something. From a locked case under his bed, he pulled out a drive. On it, video footage from a government lab. In the video, a floating object, slowly spinning, suspended above a metallic platform. Scientists standing around, all wearing hazmat suits. The object emitted a low-frequency pulse, and behind it, written on a glass panel, was the same symbol from the Bible. The footage ended with an alert. "Unauthorized emotional disruption detected. Test halted." Louise looked her in the eyes. This object reacted only when one of the techs started crying. She'd just lost her daughter. The machine pulsed faster, like it felt her grief. Helena said nothing. Louise continued, "This isn't technology, it's conscious." Helena couldn't sleep. She went outside, sat on the dry ground where she'd found the Bible. She held it tightly in her lap. Looking at the stars, she whispered, "If you're listening, if this is real, show me." Above her, the stars blinked like always. Then, one of them moved. Not across the sky, but downward. And then, just before vanishing, it flashed in 3 concentric pulses. She closed her eyes. Somewhere in a dark room, on a hidden screen inside a government base, a voice spoke quietly into a microphone. "Subject Helena Duarte has activated the response. Phase 2 begins now." Helena hadn't told Louise about the star that moved. She wasn't ready. She wasn't sure he'd believe her, even after everything. After the Bible, the symbols, the dreams, and Miguel's voice in the room. Or maybe he would believe her, and maybe that was worse. Because if he believed, he'd have to admit they were already in too deep. And she could see in his eyes, he wasn't ready for that. 3 days later, someone knocked on the door. Not ring, not tapped, knocked. 3 slow, heavy knocks. No one ever came out here. Their nearest neighbor was nearly half a mile away. Louise was still at work. She stood still for a long moment, heart racing, then slowly opened the door. A woman stood there, late 50s, maybe older. Gray hair tied back, face sharp, eyes strangely gentle. She wore a loose beige coat, desert boots, and carried nothing. No bag, no ID, no expression. "Helena Duarte?" she asked. "Yes. My name is Naomi Caldwell. I came because of the Bible." Helena's throat tightened. "What about it?" Naomi tilted her head, as if studying her. "You're not the first to find one, but you might be the last." They sat at the kitchen table. Naomi didn't touch the water Helena offered. She spoke slowly, precisely, with the cadence of someone used to being listened to carefully. "There are 7 copies of that Bible in the world," Naomi began, "each buried, each marked, each programmed to activate when the soul who once placed it returns." Helena blinked. "Programmed? Yes, not in your sense of software. These books are spiritual triggers, anchors, if you will. They remember energy. When the right hands touch them, the signal begins." "Signal to who?" Naomi smiled faintly. Not warmly. "To those watching. Those waiting." Helena wanted to laugh, but her body didn't let her. Her hands were cold, her stomach was tight. "What do they want?" "They don't want, they serve. But Earth is noisy. Emotion clouds the field. That's why the chosen always to arrive broken." Helena looked away. She thought of Miguel. His crash. The emptiness. The nights of silent screaming. The numbness that followed. "You think I was chosen?" "No," Naomi said. "I know. You reinserted yourself into the cycle willingly. You volunteered. You've done it before. That's why you're waking up." Helena stood up suddenly, the chair scraping loudly. "Okay, that's enough. I don't know who you are or what you're doing here, but—" Naomi didn't flinch, just raised a small, silver object from her pocket. A pendant, no bigger than a coin, with the 3 concentric circles symbol etched deeply into it. "This was given to me by a boy named Oral in a regression session I led in 1986. He said it was his soul's mark, that he came from Lyra, that he would return in female form, in a desert land, with grief in her blood and stars in her bones." She slid the pendant across the table. "He described your face, Helena, exactly." That night Helena didn't sleep, not from fear, but from overload. How could it all be true? A pendant from a child in 1986, who described her before she was born. And why did the name Lyra feel so familiar? At 4 a.m., she walked outside again. The wind was still. The sky cloudless. The desert silent. She took the pendant and held it against her chest. "If I volunteered, why don't I remember?" No one answered. Until, just before dawn, a faint tone filled the air. Not a sound. A frequency. Low, steady, vibrating inside her chest. Like the hum from her dream. The Bible on her nightstand flipped open on its own. Page 472. John. Chapter 10. "And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring." And written beside it, in the same red ink, "He spoke not of nations, but of worlds." Meanwhile, 30 miles away, in a small underground facility near Fort Huachuca, 2 agents watched Helena through a remote drone camera. The woman from the kitchen, the one called Naomi, did not appear on the feed. Just silence. Just Helena, talking to the air, holding an object to her chest. Agent Keller frowned. "She's active." Agent Moreno nodded. Phase 2 confirmed. Project Asherah just lit up in all systems. They exchanged a look. "Get ready," Keller said. "The others will wake soon." Back at home, Helena stared at herself in the mirror. Same face, same eyes, but not the same woman. Something was opening, and it couldn't be closed again. For 3 nights in a row, Helena didn't dream. The silence terrified her more than the visions ever had. The last thing she remembered was holding the pendant, listening to the strange frequency in the wind, and feeling something click inside her. A memory not just from another life, but another existence. Now, it was like something had turned off, like the connection had been broken. Luis noticed. He barely left her side anymore. The screen of his laptop remained open, running lines of old black site logs from the early 2000s. One file had caught his eye days earlier, a case called Subject HD, activated prior to time frame. External interference suspected. The initials matched, and the attached photo, An infrared capture of someone holding a Bible, dated 6 years before Helena's birth, froze him. The figure's posture, the tilt of the head, the bone structure, it was unmistakably her. Luis didn't tell her about the photo. Not yet. Instead, he took her back to the desert, where she'd found the Bible, the place where it had all started. He thought it might trigger something. It did, but not in the way he expected. At exactly 3:17 p.m., the wind stopped. Birds vanished. The air went heavy, thick. Helena dropped to her knees, eyes wide open, but vacant. Her lips moved. No sound came out. Luis leaned down. "Helena?" She whispered something. "He's coming." Then, the sky flashed. Not a flash of lightning, a silent, vertical pulse of light, from sky to earth, like a thread of pure white connecting both realms. The temperature dropped instantly. Helena stood and pointed toward the horizon. Something moved there, slowly, impossibly. A structure, descending in total silence. Not a craft, not a cloud, not a light. A form. It looked almost human in outline. Tall, elongated, shimmering, as if sculpted from light, constantly morphing, but never losing shape. "It's him," Helena said. "Who?" "Miguel." Luis stared. His rational mind collapsed under the weight of the impossible. He could feel it too. Not just a presence, a recognition. Something in his blood told him he knew this being, even before it had fully appeared. The figure stood 50 meters away now. No footsteps, no motion, just presence. Then a voice inside their heads, not loud, not intrusive, but total. "You asked for truth. You asked for proof. You asked for pain to be redeemed. All are the same request." Helena stepped forward. "Why me?" "Because you remembered." "Remembered what?" The figure pulsed, its form softened, revealing eyes, his eyes, Miguel's. Not 17, not aged, just transcendent. "That death is an illusion. Those bodies are costumes. That birth is a passage. That sorrow is the currency of awakening." Luis shouted, trembling. "Why him? Why did you take him from us?" The figure turned its gaze to him. "We did not take. He returned. Voluntarily. He planted the grief to reopen the bond." "What bond?" Helena answered before the figure did. "The one between us and them, the one we forgot when we chose to be human." The ground beneath them vibrated gently. A second pulse of light hit the earth, behind them. Then a voice from Helena's chest, from the pendant, a phrase, biblical, but altered. And lo, the heavens opened, and a voice said, "You are not from this flock, but I know your name." Miguel, or what wore his form, stepped forward, and reached out. Helena did the same. Their hands almost touched, but didn't. Instead, a surge of warmth flowed through her body, memories she didn't know she had. Lives, stars, missions, a promise, a volunteering, to come here, to forget, to feel pain, to remember again. And at that moment, Helena understood. She had written the Bible she found, not in this life, but in another, long ago, as a message to herself, and now it has been delivered. Miguel's form began to fade, but the connection remained. "The others will awaken," he said. "Some will fight it, others will fear. But those who remember will lead." "Lead what?" Luis asked. "The reconciliation. Between earth and you?" Miguel's form pulsed again. "No, between spirit and matter. Between truth and story. Between the God you imagined and the source that imagined you." Then he was gone, and the desert returned to silence. Later that night, back home, Helena opened the Bible one last time. The final page was no longer blank. Written in the same red ink, in her own handwriting, was one final message. The Messiah walked, the prophets dreamed, the angels flew, but none were strangers. All were messengers, all were us. She closed the book, and for the first time in years, she slept. No dreams, no visions, just peace.